ficción de autores y personajes. Charlas con Adriana Bernal.
I don't know who I am, which is the first cool. Probably that's why I write, you know. For me, writing is exploration of the self, trying to bring together many parts of myself that are not usually in contact with each other usually. So I can tell a story about my biography, but it's only a story. I don't know if the story is real in a way. Okay. I grew up in a religious house and with parents that came from Morocco.
Okay.
They came as children, which is a very important fact for my biography, because they kind of came to Israel before they were fully developed people, and for them, you know, kind of the coming to Israel kind of broke their life into two. They had a childhood in Morocco, about which they never talked, because they wanted to be part of the Israeli society. Mm-hmm. And they had their life in Israel, which was very harsh life. And growing up, I kind of discovered, not just me, but also my brothers and sisters. I come from a large family, by the way.
Okay.
I have 10 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah.
10. Stop.
I went through a couple of systems of education. Mm-hmm. First was my father's education, because he wanted me to be a rabbi.
Okay.
So I was studying with him Hebrew texts, like Hebrew scriptures, mm-hmm. and also Jewish scriptures, and also was sent to study with other people. On the other hand, there was the school which I was sent to, which was Western. It was, even though it was religious school, mm-hmm. still you have to study many of the Israeli subjects. Mm-hmm. And you have to, and school was a way to make you a better citizen within Israel. So, and there was a third, which is informal side of my education, which was my older sister. Mm-hmm. And she really taught me how to read books from a young age. You know, she took me to the library, and she recommended books that I should read, and we would talk about these books. So for me, my education is my trying to understand myself is also trying to understand these three forms of education.
Okay.
First, thank you about it for this, and I have to say that first that it was very important that I grew up in the 1980s. You know, the formative decade was the 80s, and the 80s were, in Israel at least, a decade in which all the definitions of life just crumbled. Everything that was kind of all the assumptions about how to be in the world, or what Israeli society is about, just fell apart because of the Lebanon War, the first Lebanon War. It was the first war in which there was no consensus about the war within Israeli society.
Okay.
So suddenly people started to ask questions about what is Israeli society made of, really? And they were asking very fundamental questions, like what's the place of people that came from North Africa and were considered second-grade population within Israel? Because there was no anymore, the Israeli ethos was fading. And because of this, many forms of expressions came to be that weren't before that.
Okay.
And mainly the ethos became the ethos of the rock and roll in which you don't have to know really what you do in order to do art. Everything is wild. If you want to do music, you don't have to know how to play. You just have to have a passion for music. And then you take a guitar and you start playing, and whatever comes out, this is your song. Yeah. And if you want to write poetry, so you start working with words, and this is poetry. And it's the same with fiction. And I really tried very hard in my life to separate these things, and I wasn't able. So for me, the question wasn't about moving from one form of art to another, but trying to separate them. And I'm not able to do this. And for me, working with music is really similar to working with poetry, and writing poetry is similar to writing fiction. Because I have to say that language has many aspects. It's not about just concepts, but also about sounds and about inner music. So for me, it's always trying to investigate the connections between the musical side of language and the conceptual and also the medical side of language. Because I grew up my house was a religious house, but my parents came from different backgrounds.
Okay.
My father got this kind of very rationalistic education, and he was very strict in the way he thought about the world. But my mother came from a house that was more mystic in approach to religion, in which he believed like there are certain powers that work in the world, and the religious work is trying to appease and trying to work with this force. So for me, first the works that my approach to language is trying to find its two aspects within language: the aspects of the mystical part, and the rational part of language.
Okay.
Because language is constructed very rationally because of syntax. So you have to learn. When you study a language, you have to analyze the language and find the roots of the language, and it's very, very scientific.
Okay.
On the other way, my belief, the belief I grew up with, being brought religious, is that the world is made by God's speech.
Okay.
And in a way, the world is made of words all the time. Everything that is the world is words, and the existence is always the way that when according to mystic belief that when God spoke and said, "Let it be light," He spoke in Hebrew. Yeah? but he didn't say, "Let it be light." He uttered certain syllables, and the reverberations, the vibration of the word created light, and then the first people came and see, oh, this series of sounds
Create light.
that said, "Let it be light." But there was no, like, the world is the meaning of language. In a way, language is only sounds. Okay, so that's why I'm exploring, and I'm trying to explore it through different layers of Hebrew.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explore it through different languages.
Okay.
Because Hebrew is in Hebrew language. There is like we don't have any. We might believe that the world was created in Hebrew, but we don't have any approach to the real Hebrew. because since the language of creation was spoke, something happened to language. It became confused.
Really?
I like,
So,
was it
yeah.
necessary, really? Must you be
It
so
was
noisy?
no, it was God interfering. Yeah, I didn't like what I said. So when I explore music, as for me, it's trying to understand the music of language, not the instrumental music, the way people speak, the way words has form in the world. And when I write, I try also to understand the mythical, usually when I write fiction, the mythical side of language, and trying to find this lost language, which was the language of creation.
Okay.
And when I write poetry, it's trying to bring these two together.
Okay.
Okay?
That's all right.
I don't like it. No, I don't know. First, what I was trying to say is that the real language, in which we speak, which we're supposed to speak, if we were perfect creatures, this language is lost. And in a way, we're always searching for a lost language. So for me, the Hebrew is just an approximation. So the Spanish may be another approximation, but I'm not sure that. I think that the work of translation is trying to move between language, the feeling that language is the best tool we have, but it always fails us. It always gives us the illusion that we understand something. At the same time, it prevents us from understanding the real world. Okay.
Okay.
But when you ask about society, do you ask about social constructs, or just about living with other people? About
Both.
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 Okay. Because when I say that the real language is lost to us, I'm saying it's not just in a mystical way, but also even in a psychological way, because we heard language before we could understand it. And the people that spoke to us in our first years, they were trying to express emotions. Love, sometimes anger, sometimes satisfaction, sometimes joy. And without understanding, it just sunk into us. But we don't know what it did to us in a way that we don't have any access. So it's stuck within our body, and it's part of our body, but we don't know how to express it. So, and it just became more severe when we go into society, or the way society is using language, because we have our own private language, and society has its own language, and we use the language of society in order to understand ourselves. But it's always a wrong language. So the society is kind of the shadow of the body, I would say. Yeah.
Subtextos. Vida y ficción de autores y personajes. Charlas con Adriana Bernal.